Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This video is going to be about the mind and the basic functioning of the mind, number one, and number two, how to spot lies. Okay. So what we need to understand, first of all, about the mind is that the mind functions only through a process of association. Okay. In terms of theology, I would say the mind is an object of shirk, of association, okay, in Islamic terms. And that is that the mind is only able to conceive things by comparison. And the mind therefore works in terms of leaping from one thing to the other thing, to another thing or another idea, because they correlate to each other. Okay, so let me give you an example of that. Okay, let's say, for example, you talk about having a shower. Okay, and in your mind you're saying, okay, look, I really need to have a shower. Okay, so there's a context to that in your mind. I really need to have a shower because I smell. I really need to have a shower because I didn't shower today. I really need to have. There's something that happening in your mind, like precognitive, in a sense, that prompts you to this. I need to have a shower. Okay. Now, if you're having a conversation with somebody, for example, I'll give you a good example, and in your conversation, you stop and you say, you know what? I need to pray. I need to do the prayer, the salah. It's now the time for Salatul Dhuhr, the afternoon prayer, the early afternoon prayer, and I need to pray. And the person pauses and says, you know, I really need to have a shower. So you can fill in the blanks, right? So without having to say anything, right, you can understand from that communication that the person is probably in a state of janaba, meaning the person is probably in a state of having had sex recently and did not perform a purification ritual in order to be in the state to pray. Okay, because what you said caused caused that person to say something else. So when you have a conversation with people, when I have conversations with people, and someone says something seemingly random or seemingly out of place, it sparks a red flag. Okay, immediately a red flag should go up, because you gotta ask yourself, okay, where is this coming from? Okay, like, how does this person, for example, know to say this particular thing, right, in that particular situation? And if they are saying this particular thing, then they must probably know something I don't know, okay? Or they must be doing something I don't know of. So it's very important to listen to people very carefully. And when you listen to people very carefully, pay attention to them, be present with them, and also to when you are present and alert, you remember what people say. And when you remember what people say, you will notice that very often, especially people who are not truthful, the stories they tell change. Okay? Because people have a habit of repeating themselves, and they will tell you, especially if you've been with somebody for a long time, they'll tell you the same story, and you would be like, yes, I know the story because I heard it before. But if they're telling you the same story over and over, it means that that story is true. Okay? Because they forgot they told you, and every time they tell you the same story, so it must be a real story, right? But when people keep changing their stories and changing their minds and telling you things which are not coherent and disjointed, then they are lying. Now the issue is, what are they lying about? That becomes the issue. That they are lying, you know. what part of it they're lying about, you don't know. And the way you discover that essentially is by looking for the underlying pattern in the stories. Now, if there's an underlying pattern and which the pattern of which is consistent, then those that are not consistent are not true. Okay, because that's the amazing thing about truth. It is consistent. So again, the mind works by association, and when people interact with you and they bring something up, it's because something you said has triggered something in their mind. When something they say has triggered something in your mind. And so the way you relate to what they are saying, right, is because of a mental trigger and vice versa. And these mental triggers, right, count for a great deal in communication, in really understanding what people are saying. Because a lot of people, unfortunately, they don't say what they want to say, they talk around the issue. Okay, and you kind of need to guess what the issue is. Especially women do that a lot, okay? They talk around the issue. And so you got to kind of understand that they're talking around the issue. Also, when people are lying to you, you know, they will bring up something in an inopportune moment, or what seems to them as an opportune moment to bring up something relative to the context, because they would be like, okay, since he's bringing this up now, let me tell him this to throw him off, or let me tell him that. Because people who lie often lie in order to throw you off, okay? Because the nearer you edge towards the truth, to knowing the truth, they try to throw you off. So they will create diversions, okay? One person told me in a lie that the reason why they brought something up was because they had a dream, and in the dream they saw XYZ, and they often mistake their dreams for reality. Okay, obviously I knew that was a lie. I mean, I'm very good at detecting lies, very good, right? Like, people have routinely lied to me, and I usually know when people lie, but I never call them out on it. I allow them to lie because I know, I study people, I know when they're lying, and when they are lying, I usually just leave it, because usually the lies are negligible, are trivial, and will not really impact me. And so you gotta also know how to choose your battles. And sometimes it's better to deal with a person that you figured out, that you know when they are lying, and let the lie slide when they are lying, as long as you know that they are lying when they are lying, okay? Then call them out and help them get better at what they are doing, because then, you know, they might be able to throw you off. And so people lie obviously for various reasons. Sometimes it's just insecurities they have. They feel that if you were to know the truth, you would not stick around. Or they lie because they really want to get their way with something, but they know you will not agree with it, or so on. So there's many reasons why people lie, usually stemming around insecurities, and also obviously stemming around being dishonest with themselves. First of all, people who lie to themselves tend to lie to others. And people who are honest with themselves tend to not mind being honest with others. And people who are secure within themselves basically don't care what other people think. Okay, so they're going to be honest. They're going to be like, look, okay, this is it, you know. I mean, I didn't make it to work on time because I overslept. Like, what can I'm going to tell you I overslept. Okay, or they're going to say that, look, the reason why I didn't actually accomplish the task that you wanted me to do was simply I was lazy and didn't feel like doing it. Okay, it's not a good excuse, but it's the real one. And the important thing about being truthful with yourself is really so that you develop. If you pledge yourself to honesty, to always be honest, then you risk the possibility of looking bad in the eyes of others. But rather look bad in the eyes of others and rectify what you do so you can say what is true. Okay, so what I do sometimes with myself is that, I actually would do a task that I promised someone I would do, and then I would do it simply because I know when this person is going to ask me, did you do this task that you promised to do? I want to be able to say yes. Okay, so I do it. Now, if I know I'm not going to be able to complete the task that I promised to do, then I would call the person up and say, look, I've started on your task. I've done an hour, of work on it, but I'm not going to be able to complete it. Okay, so that's that. Thank you.